am excited for today's episode because this is my favorite topic of all. We are going to talk about speech development for children with autism. Now, this is something I hyper focus on. This is something that I've researched over the past 20 years. This is something that I've developed curriculum on in the last 20 years. This is something that I wrote not one book, but two books on in the past 20 years. And that's because this is an area in great need of doing something different. And that's because what we know from the research in the past 30 years, since we began researching this area of speech development for children with autism, is that the rate is too high. 25 to 30% of children with autism are not developing fluent speech during their lifetimes. And people, we're not doing something different. The problem is that we're adopting this paradigm in which we're teaching these children speech and language as if they are neurotypical. So what I know from my research and what I know from my clinical experience is that children with autism not only develop language differently, they also tend to develop their speech differently. If you're not going to do something different, and if you're not going to try to fit this square into this circle peg, you're not going to get results. What I'm going to share with you today is very important. If you work with children who are minimally speaking, who have not yet developed consistent speech, this is the episode for you. This is going to be a game changer because I'm going to share with you what I learned from my professors. Now, my professors are the preschoolers with autism that are learning to talk. These are children who I started working with. They weren't talking yet, and then they developed speech. They had the key and they got to the other side. So what I need to do at that time is take notes. And I'm going to share those notes with you because I know that together we are at the drawing board and we're not just here to do a job. We're not just checking in and checking out. We're here to change lives. So we're on a mission. This is not a profession for us. And if you're a parent of the child with autism, this isn't just something to do. This is high stakes and I get it. What I'm going to share with you is this is what is most important is the notes I've taken from watching children who are very inconsistently and rarely talking to talking consistently, to talking all the time. And what I'm going to share with you is that hump, that bridge that they cross, because that bridge is what we want to lay down. We want to lay that bridge down for those other children who are inconsistently talking where a word comes out every now and a great moon, which is wonderful. I don't want to diminish that. And how we can build that bridge so that speech becomes consistent. Now, consistency is key. I'm going to be honest with you, for better or worse. It's going to hurt, but it's true. I've worked with children who some days they talk, some days there's no speech. It goes on and off like a light switch. It's on, and then there's no speech at all. It's on, and then there's no speech at all. Now, I'm just going to be honest. With these children, what I found is that many of these children that never developed that consistency, they stop talking. So this is very high stakes. And I want you to know this because I want you to know how important consistency is. And I want to share with you what has worked, what bridge these children cross, that you take this child that's inconsistently speaking, that a word comes out every now and then in a blue moon, and the child's talking day in and day out. And when they're talking day in and day out, I find that's it. It's here to stay. I'm not talking about the cases of regression in which the child began talking at an early age and then stopped talking. I'm talking about a child that was not talking, a preschool age child. They developed speech. They develop it consistently. They're using it morning, noon, and night. These are kiddos where you can't turn it off. It is on. There's no turning that switch off. My hope is that what I'm going to share with you today will help you change lives and will help you build that bridge in which the child is now consistent. They're safe. They're talkers now. They can take off from here. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to share with you a personal story that really illustrates the importance of repetition, the importance of multimodal cueing when it comes to speech, the importance of incorporating the visual and the print and the song, and the importance of repetition, 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 repetition. Now, the reason this all becomes important is because we have to keep in mind that the research indicates that over 90% of children with autism have auditory processing difficulties. Now, the problem is that we've been doing what works with children who are intact auditorily. So we just figured if you just play with the child, you talk about what you're doing while you're playing with them, they're going to learn to talk because it's worked with all of these neurotypical children. So we're going to do the same thing with these children that are neurodivergent. Now, that's a problem. We need a DSD. Okay, this is a different child. It's like myself. I am not a visual learner. If anyone gives me a flow chart with all of these arrows going in every direction, I'm like, why did you take something so simple and turn it into Chinese? This flow chart makes everything terribly complex. Can you just explain this to me auditorily in a sentence and I've got it? Or explain it to me in a book and read me the book and I've got it. But this flow chart, this visual piece of information, as way that you express it has made this entirely complex for me. That's what it's like. Your weakest way of learning and saying, I'm going to teach you how to talk using your weakest way of learning. We don't want to do that. That's not working. It hasn't worked for the last 30 years when we start collecting data in this area. We're not getting better at what we're doing because people are not DSDing, doing something different. We need to take a neurodivergent approach. Let's talk about this, okay? What I'm going to talk about is in my own practice, what I see. What I see, for instance, is I've worked with a wonderful preschool teacher of children with autism. And every single day, like clockwork, she goes through the alphabet with the children, showing the cards and singing the words. Okay, you guys know this song, but I'm going to just sing it so you know where I'm coming from. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 5 days a week, every single day. Show them the card, sing the songs as you flip the old-fashioned paper cardstock card. You know, the bulletin board cards that you put on the top of your classroom that everyone has. She does it every single day. What do we have? Repetition. What else do we have? Print. What else do we have? Music. What else do we have? Pictures. It's auditory processing. If that's not your thing, which over 90% of the children, that's not how they learn, I'm not going to depend on that in order to help you learn to talk. I'm going to give it all. I'm going to give the total package, multimodal, and I'm going to give it to you every single day. So what happens? The children's very first words, not surprisingly, are singing the alphabet. Now, how does it start? It starts like a vowelization. And the reason for that is because vowels are longer. If you have an auditory processing issue, you're not going to hear the short stop sounds, which most children hear. So neurotypical children hear these sounds, pa, ba, ta, mama. This is how we say papa. This is how we say mama. This is how we say grandma and grandpa across linguistically. Those are the easiest sounds for them. But for our children with autism, we need to DSD because these are the hardest, because they're the shortest. It's not about how easy they are to produce in the mouth. They're 30 to 50 milliseconds long. And if you have auditory processing issues, you probably didn't hear it. What are the longest sounds in our language? The vowels. So when the child with autism, who I'm taking notes from, because they are building a bridge, they're doing it all by themselves. They're showing me this is how I learn language. When they sing that alphabet song, it sounds like this. Hey, 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 hey. They hear the vowels and you can hear them humming it. And then you're like, recognize that? It's the alphabet. Now, over time, the consonants start to roll in through that repeated, meaningful, multimodal exposure. So keep that in mind. Now, when you go on social media, if that's where you're getting your guidance, what are the social media people going to say? Don't teach letters. It's not developmentally appropriate. Get out the churches, set you on fire. We need to stop being so simplistic. And we need to instead look at the world from the child with autism's back porch. And many children with autism, that's their strength is letters, letter knowledge. So why would you not capitalize on that? This is what I'm talking about. Don't be a bandwagon thinker. Because if you're a bandwagon thinker, you're jumping on that boat and you're going to miss the bridge. Okay? The bridge that the child is building. They're telling you, this is how I learn language. When you capitalize on my strengths, which are letters, when you sing it, when you show it in print, when you do it repeatedly, when you put a picture with it too. I'm showing you the bridge that I'm building. And there are vowels, because those vowels are long, and I can actually hear the longer sounds. But with repetition, I'm going to like fine tune it, and I'm going to start hearing some of those consonants too. This is the first layer of my bridge. I want you to think about that. And I'm going to talk about literacy because many of our kiddos, I'm going to show you one of the books right here. One of their first words are when they're reading the book Brown Bear. So, what did Brown Bear have to offer these children? So, think about that. We have animals. How many kids on your caseload with autism love animals? Interest. Check. What else do we have here? Repetition. What do you see? I see every single page, they're saying the same refrain. Check. We have print. Check. We have rhythm and song. Check. Is it any surprise? And it's also slow. Brown bear, brown bear. What do you see? We have intonation. It's exaggerated. So what you're doing with this language when you're exaggerating it like that is you're cutting through that sensory ice distraction in which they're taking it all in. You're like saying, this will stick right out. I'm going to cut through that ice of sensory distraction. Many of our kiddos, when I'm looking at them learning to speak, how are you building that bridge from going to a child who doesn't talk or rarely says a word here and there to being a child who's talking morning, noon, and night? To what I see is the bridge. They start doing things like singing parts of Brown Bear. And once again, I'm hearing vowels, vowels. That's what I perceive. Nice and long sounds that make sense to me. I just made that up. I swear. Ravi, look out. Man, I know what I'm doing when I retire. You can be a tone deaf singer, right? I think that's okay. I'm going to go over some other books. We are going to capitalize on this. We are going to capitalize on being multimodal with learning language because what we're seeing is these children that are building that bridge and are getting to the other side. What is that happening? It's happening with songs. It's happening with repetitive books. It's happening with letters, shapes, numbers, colors. It's happening with things that they like, things that are repetitive, things that have a song involved with them, things that have a movement to them. If you're going through the days of the week, I want you to go ahead and clap it, because what you're doing is you're cutting through that ice. So if you're going through the days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you want to break through all of that sensory distraction, that sensory overload. It's just make it stand out more. We have our brown bear. Here are some other books. Right now, you're always at the drawing board, always at my side. I'm working on a grant right now. I'm going to be submitting it tomorrow for a lending library so that we can reenact them and we can use them in our task-oriented movement therapy activities. Hands-on is always great. So here are some books with heavy repetition. Now think about any book that is in song form and get it in the book form. For instance, we're going on a lion hunt. Here's the book. What does the book provide? It provides the pictures, it provides the print. So we're just adding to that multimodal experience, realizing that auditory is not a strength for many children with autism. So we're going to make it multimodal. Here's some other books that I am going to order. I'm going to hopefully get this grant. Peanut butter, and gel. So here I've got the print. Here I've got the visual. Here I have the book. Give me that song too. Thank you very much. There we go. We got that repetition. Here's another one. If you give a mouse a cookie. Isn't this a fun episode? 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. Now, of course, any time that you're doing any of these books, adding the gestures, adding the body movement is always a plus. And that's because what happens with many of the children with autism that I work with, I find that when they pair it with body movement, they say more. For instance, when they're pointing, they go, ah, 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 and their arm will reach with the ah. There is that entrainment in which the movement in the body is stimulating movement in the mouth. Movement is important too. These are just a few books. Old MacDonald Had a Farm. How many children do you work with autism where their first song is like, E-I-E-I-O? There you go. It's that repetition, repetition, repetition. And we got the vowels. Oh, here's a good one. There was an old lady who swallowed a C. I'm even looking at taking my favorite book growing up, Green Eggs and Ham. Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. Baby beluga in the deep blue sea. What I encourage you to do with your children with autism is pick out literacy books that have that repetitive refrain, that incorporate a rhythm or song or music, and then incorporate their interest. So think about that and think about always adding gestures to it, always adding animation and intonation to it as well. Those are just a few books that I grabbed off my bookshelf today on my way home from work. I did this for you for visuals. So if you're watching YouTube, you get to see all the books. But my point is that these books are going to help build that bridge from minimally speaking to consistently speaking. I promise you, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. When you get to consistently speaking, there's this automaticity that develops. And with this automaticity, there's this cascading impact in which other words quickly and naturally roll in the child's vocabulary. And it's just amazing to watch. And that's why I call so much of this a speech motor disorder. Because when these children begin talking, the words that come out of their mouth naturally, they've been taking it all in all along. For instance, a child, like I said, that began talking like this. He came in one day and he just started talking. He became consistent. And he looked at me and he said, Miss Kelly, you've got paint all over you. I was just like, so yeah, it's all right. You need to wash that off. Now, I never taught him any of that. but he's been taking it all in. And the problem with that is he didn't have that motor coordination to speak. It was kind of like a late talker in which all this time he's been learning about asking questions, making these phrases. He's been absorbing all of that speech that's been coming his way. And he just simply did not know how to motor plan and motor program and execute it. He didn't know how to ride that bike. But when he learned how to ride that bike and it became automatic, all of these ideas in his head just started flowing out naturally. What was happening is all along he was picking it all. When you develop that consistency, what you're going to see is this amazing cascading impact in which all of these words are going to naturally flow as a result of the child developing automaticity in the mouth and this ability to use their mouth in a complex manner to express their ideas. That is what's really amazing, is being able to cross that bridge and get to the other side. So how are we going to do that? In short, we're going to do that by paying attention to our professors. And our professors are the children with autism that built the bridge and got to the other side. Take notes on how they built that bridge to get to the other side and do what they did. And then you will know how to build a bridge too. That's the secret. Pay attention to the master class professors, and those are the preschoolers with autism. They're going to show you how to build the bridge. Take notes and help other children build a bridge. I want you to take all of this information. And by the way, if you haven't checked out my SIS membership, this is what we're doing in the SIS membership. People email me and they say, "Oh, Kelly, what do you do with Gestalt language learners in the SIS membership?" And it's like, this is what it's about. This is why we incorporate song, and this is why we incorporate movement, and this is why we incorporate print, and this is why we incorporate pictures. All of this multimodal speech and language development is understanding that these children are learning to talk not through their ears, but they're learning to talk through all of their senses in a multisensory manner. We have to stop thinking, well, it's enough if I just play with them and I just talk about what we're doing. And not to take anything away from that, that's a wonderful thing to do. But I want you to do more than that, because we need to build that bridge. And that bridge is multi-layered. That bridge includes lots of repetition of those bricks. That bridge includes lots of interest. That bridge includes song that's incorporated in there. That bridge includes movement. That bridge includes visuals. That bridge includes print. That bridge is really strong because it's multi-layered. It's multi-layered. Remember that. This is very important in that it incorporates all of the senses. And that, my friends, is how we are going to get these children from this point where they're minimally speaking to this point where they're talking all the time. We're going to build the bridge. So thank you so much for being here at my side, literally. I love talking to you. I come on here Wednesday night, right? And you're going to hear me Thursday morning. And that's because I really do want to speak from my heart and mind to you. And I want to share with you, I'm at the drawing board right now. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm working on this grant tonight. It's due tomorrow. I have to send it out tomorrow. This is what is on my mind. This is how we're going to make the world a better place. So thank you so much for being there at my side. Together, we are going to make this world a better place. Together, we are going to change lives. I appreciate you so much. That said, I want you to roll up your sleeves and do what you do each and every day. Make the world a better place, one child at a time.